All right, so hello. Here we are with Mary Burke. Burke, is that how you pronounce your last name?
Burke.
Democratic candidate for governor of Wisconsin 2014 election, next November 12th. She's an American businesswoman, member of the Madison, Wisconsin School Board, and well known for being a former executive at Trek Bicycle Corporation, because she's the daughter of Trek Bicycle founder Richard Burke. She also serves as the Wisconsin Secretary of Commerce. She served as Secretary of Commerce back in 2005, from 2005 through 2007. Is that right?
Through November 1, 2007.
November 1, 2007. In 2011, Madison Magazine named Burke one of the People of the Year, and in October 2013, she is running to challenge Republican Governor Scott Walker in the 2014 Wisconsin gubernatorial election. So La Comunidad News requests to interview the two candidates, Mayor Burke and Mr. Scott Walker. We sent requests in the Latino Focus group to ask. Unfortunately, Mr. Walker, press declined to participate in this interview, so we welcome Mary at La Comunidad News.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Very nice. The community requested to interview the two candidates, as I said earlier, and so we have prepared some questions that we'd like to go forward. Lo primero, we're going to do two formats, Spanish and then the English version.
Okay.
So the first part. Lo primero que nos gustaría saber es ¿por qué está compitiendo para gobernadora del estado? ¿Y qué propones para tu gobernación? So the first thing we'd like to know is, Mary, why are you running for governor? And what do you propose as governor?
Well, I'm a fourth generation Wisconsinite, so my family has been in Wisconsin a long time. My great-grandparents were farmers, and my grandpa George was a mailman, and in fact, he used to deliver mail to the house that I live in today. So every day I'm reminded of the deep roots I have in Wisconsin and the values that I was brought up on. And I know we can do better here in Wisconsin. I care deeply about the future of the state and the direction that we're headed. Scott Walker has had 4 years and his plans aren't working. Our economy is dead last in the Midwest in job creation. So 10 Midwestern states and we're at the bottom. We're 10th.
Interesting.
And we head into the next state budget with a $1.8 billion deficit. Scott Walker has been very hard and made massive cuts to education in Wisconsin, which I think is important to building our economy and making sure that people are able to get the skills and education to support themselves and their families. And so I know that we can do a lot better here in Wisconsin, and I have laid out my plans on how I'm going to lead Wisconsin forward in my jobs plan called Invest for Success.
Thank you, thank you. Second question, como Latinos, sabemos que las cosas no se hacen solas. Tanto o más, repito, ¿qué elementos hacen que tú y quienes te acompañan estén calificados para el cargo? También nos gustaría saber qué latinos participan en tu equipo o qué tipos trabajan en este campo. As Latinos, we know that things are not done alone. Equally or more important, as a candidate, it's important that you have a good team of people. Yes. What makes you and your team qualified for this position? Who are the Latinos on your team? And how are you going to feel? How are you going to lead this team on the field?
Well, I have had a 30-year career in business and in nonprofit leadership and in education as Secretary of Commerce for the state of Wisconsin. So in each one of those instances, I have led teams of people who have accomplished great things. And at Trek Bicycle, the division that I led, I increased sales from $3 million to over $50 million in sales. That was selling great Wisconsin products all over the world. I headed up as board chair of the Boys and Girls Club here locally. And when I took over, it was quite a struggling organization. And now it's a thriving, growing organization that reaches and serves thousands of children every single year. I created an education initiative that brought together the public schools and the Boys and Girls Club so that teens from low-income families, most who would be the first in their family to go to college, would graduate high school and go on to college. And now we have 750 teens in that program and already 200 that have gone on to college. And when I was Secretary of the Department of Commerce, we had an unemployment rate of 4.8%, 50,000 more jobs than we have currently. So I have a track record of success, of building teams, of bringing them together, and actually having results. I want to make sure that on my team as governor, that I have strong representation from the Latino community. It's a growing community in Wisconsin, and not just here in Madison or in Milwaukee, but all over the state. And I feel we are strongest as a state, and I make the best decisions as governor when people have a voice in which they can contribute their ideas and their concerns, their solutions on how we can move forward, how we can grow our economy and become a better state.
Do you currently have any Latino members in your team currently?
Yes, well, Lauren is here with me today, and that will continue to build as, obviously, as governor, that's a much bigger team, and I will make sure and welcome and put a high emphasis on making sure that we have Latino representation.
Thank you, great, great. En la última lista de la revista Forbes, el estado de Wisconsin ocupó el puesto número 15 en calidad de vida, pero solo el 35 en el ranking del costo de montar un negocio. Al mismo tiempo, estados vecinos como Minnesota están experimentando una fuerte recuperación económica. La pregunta para Mary es, ¿cómo hicimos mal o qué hicimos mal? ¿Y qué podemos hacer para mejorarlo? En otras palabras, ¿cuál crees que es el mayor desafío que enfrenta Wisconsin en este momento? In the most recent Forbes list, Wisconsin ranks 15 in quality of life. Number 35 in terms of business costs ranking. While neighboring states like Minnesota are experiencing much stronger economic recovery, what are we doing wrong? What can we do? In other words, what do you feel is the biggest challenge facing Wisconsin right now?
Yes. Well, we need to do a lot better. We are lagging. We're 35th in the country in terms of job creation, and we know that states like Minnesota right next door are doing better. And in fact, the most recent job numbers from just last week show that in August, Wisconsin actually lost 4,300 private sector jobs. So we're not headed in the right direction. And that is because Scott Walker's game plan, the way he believes jobs get created, is that you give tax breaks to those at the top and the special interests, and somehow jobs get created. But I'm a business person. That's not how jobs get created. The way jobs get created, and the reason they get created, is because people have money to be able to spend, to buy the goods and services, so that companies then are producing more goods, they hire more people in order to support that demand. We have to make sure in Wisconsin we are growing good paying jobs in this state. It means making investments in education and worker training. It also means making sure that we are able to sell Wisconsin products outside of the state, regionally, nationally, even internationally, and that's the work that I did at Trek Bicycle. We have to make sure that we're supporting small businesses and getting started, because it is small business growth that creates nearly 70% of the net new jobs that are created. And right now, Wisconsin is lagging. So as governor, I'm going to make sure that we are growing the economy. I have laid out 5 core strategies in my Invest for Success plan that are based on education and training, on an entrepreneurial climate, on exporting Wisconsin goods and services, and making sure that we have a strong business climate that's competitive in terms of taxes so that people want to locate their businesses here. But a lot of the decisions that businesses make about where to locate their business has to do with the quality of the workforce. So we have to make sure that we are making those investments in our technical colleges and our universities and our K-12 system.
I have 2 follow-up questions. One of them is talking about small businesses. How would your government promote these businesses? But more important, how to integrate it. For example, we have 2 Latino chambers of commerce, one in Milwaukee, one in Madison. How are you going to integrate them in the Wisconsin idea? I often hear that Wisconsin is open for business these days, and we see a lot of our business struggling for funding, education, compliance. And these are entrepreneurs that are really, really working hard, families that are working hard. Exactly. So how are we going to promote these? How are we going to integrate Latino businesses?
Yeah. Well, I know that there is a really strong tradition and success of Latinos as entrepreneurs, as people starting their own businesses and being very successful with that. Governor Walker's approach favors big companies. And my belief is, while that's good for some portion, we really have to, it is the small companies that get started, the entrepreneurs who will be the next big companies in the future. So we have to make sure that there is access to capital, that we're working very strongly with the local chambers, whether it's the chamber in Milwaukee or the chamber here, and understanding what are the things that stand in the way, whether it's access to capital, whether it is sort of bureaucracy and red tape. Well, then we need to get rid of that. We have to make sure that we have a climate that doesn't put burdens on small businesses. And I started my own business when I was in my 20s, and I know how challenging it can be. I slept in the office to save money on rent because as entrepreneurs, you're always struggling to balance those budgets. So I understand the challenges that entrepreneurs face, but I also know how we can overcome those challenges.
A follow-up question. I also noticed that in our state, labor conditions is a very sensitive one. One of the issues that our community is facing is the driver license issue. Mm-hmm. Latino families issue a driver license for undocumented Hispanics. We know they're not here with documents. What is your position on this issue, since perhaps we have so many of them that are driving without the training, without the proper education, and denying them the access to have a license or the training? It's really even more dangerous. So what is your position on this important issue?
It is an important issue, and what we have seen from some other states around the country is they understand how important it is. They realize they don't want unsafe drivers on the road, and so they've done something about it. And they have come up with a driver's card that is able to make sure that people pass driver's tests, written tests, and actual behind-the-wheel tests, that they do have insurance, and then they are able to get to work and to hold down jobs, to do things like even, get to school for meetings with teachers, or to be able to get to the doctor for a doctor's appointment. Mm-hmm. These things are all critical things to making sure that people can support themselves and their families. And so I definitely support driver's cards.
Driver's card, it's similar to the state of Illinois, for example, has some, California,
Utah
has some. So Wisconsin will have something very similar.
That's what I would work towards, absolutely.
Very good.
I don't think that it has to be a partisan issue between Democrats and Republicans. I think, unfortunately, the federal government has not handled the issues and been able to take on the issues around immigration reform, and until they do, it is up to the states to do what they can within their power to make it easier for people to hold down jobs.
Very good. Keeping in view, this has been a very controversial issue, keeping in view the decline of union memberships statewide from 62,818 in 2011 to 28,745 in February 2012. Yeah. In Bay's report, AFSCME, I believe, and take in consideration the impact of Act 10. Mm-hmm. In your opinion, unionism, or the unions, do they have a future in Wisconsin?
I think that they do, and I think that it is important to making sure that we have good paying jobs. And I'm concerned that, unfortunately, too many of the jobs that are being created are ones that are low-wage jobs where people can't support themselves and their families. Now, I think it was important with Act 10 for public sector workers to make contributions to health care and to pensions. But also you do have to make sure that you are paying people a competitive wage. I want to make sure that the people working in the public sector are good qualified people, and it means paying wages that are competitive and benefits that are competitive. But we need to have good people in our schools, in our police departments and fire departments. And that's critical to our communities. But overall, I also support an increase in the minimum wage, because it is important that people can support themselves, and at $7.25 an hour, that's just not possible. And so what has been proposed, an increase to $10.10 an hour with over 3 steps, makes sense, because this is money that's going to come back into our economy, and states that have raised the minimum wage have seen nothing but positive benefits.
Yes, the United States, I think, is the last rankings. Denmark and some of the European countries have $21 as minimum wage. So we're still far behind in this area. But this is an issue that you will be addressing, minimum wage, as we move forward.
Yeah.
That sounds correct. So you're talking about the union. If the unions exist, what form will they have, and what role will it have in your plan?
Well, is this the public sector workers? Because there's difference between public and private sector workers, and I see no reason to change the laws that we have regarding private sector unions. In terms of public sector, I'm going to work to restore collective bargaining rights, and I think that it's that workers should be able to collectively bargain, and that doesn't stand in the way of making sure that we have accountable, efficient, and effective government.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, let's start the second part of our interview here, moving forward. Es una competencia cerrada. This is a very close race. So, algunos dicen un virtual empate, cada voto es importante, en especial los latinos. Por eso nos gustaría saber cuáles son las principales diferencias entre usted y el gobernador Scott Walker. So, in a competition which is almost a virtual tie right now, we're reading the polls, different newspapers, Marquette polls and Washington polls. And each vote is very important. So what are the key differences between you and Governor Walker? Specific keys, if you can give me examples.
Well, there are quite a lot of differences, but certainly in terms of our approach to creating jobs and making sure that Wisconsin has a thriving economy. Governor Walker, his plans, he really believes if you give tax breaks to those at the top and to special interests, that it creates jobs. And as I explained earlier, that's not how you create jobs. I'm a business person. You have to make sure that we compete for the jobs, or you have entrepreneurs who are creating new jobs. And that requires skill, education, innovation, access to capital. All of those things are important ideas. And I have laid out the very specifics in my Invest for Success jobs plan. In terms of the federal Medicaid expansion, Governor Walker turned down hundreds of millions of dollars of federal Medicaid money that will come into our state. This is Wisconsin taxpayer money that we should be getting back here. He turned that down, hundreds of millions of dollars a year that would make healthcare more affordable here. And at the same time, he threw tens of thousands of people off of their Badger Care insurance. And so this makes no sense at all. Even 27 other governors actually accepted this money, including 8 Republican governors. We know that people still get sick. The only difference is we're not getting the money to pay for it. So that is a critical difference between Governor Walker and myself. So you have both the jobs in terms of his approach to jobs. I mean, in his latest jobs plan, one of his ideas on how to create more jobs was drug testing for food stamp recipients. Well, none of us want to have fraud in any of our government assistance programs, but creating a new government program that's going to be expensive, that actually doesn't cut down on that fraud, is just a waste of money. So I don't see how that will create jobs. Education is another area where Governor Walker and I have tremendous differences. Governor Walker believes in a private school voucher program, expanding that statewide without any accountability. The estimated cost could be $1.2 billion. And I don't know how he plans to pay for that. If you're not going to raise taxes, then it has to come out of our local schools, our neighborhood schools. And the parents that I talk to, they just want a good education for their students. The average cost, if you take that $1.2 billion that it could cost, that's an average of $2.8 million per year per school district in the state. That's going to be making it harder for those schools to offer good programs, to be safe, to be able to help students learn what they need to learn. And this unaccountable voucher program that Governor Walker wants to expand across the state will just drain money from our public schools.
There's time for one more.
One more question? Okay. And speaking of differences, hablando de diferencias, ¿Cuál es tu experiencia trabajando con los latinos? What is your experience working with Latinos?
Oh, well, it's pretty extensive. Certainly at the Boys and Girls Club, we created this education program bringing together the public schools and the Boys and Girls Club. And so it was, we not only had Latino staff on the program, but about a third of the students in our program were Latino students. Many of them who they would be the first in their families to go on to college, and so that is an important part, understanding education, the challenges in education. Certainly on the Madison School Board, that's a big part of making sure that our schools are better meeting the needs of students and families is to work closely with the Latino community. I have good friends that I have worked with who have become friends. Oscar Morales over here at the Omega School, Sal Carranza with the Latino Education Council. Those are a few of the key people who I've worked with over the years in terms of education and improving education. At the Department of Commerce, that was important, working with the Hispanic Chamber in Milwaukee, or the local chamber here, to make sure that we were supporting Latino businesses and and growing their sales and their employees. So this is something that has been important to me, and we succeed as a state when everyone is reaching their potential and has those opportunities and the supports, as long as they're willing to do the hard work. And I know we have incredible potential in the Latino community here in Wisconsin, and so I look forward as governor to working with the Latino community to make sure we are building it stronger and stronger.
Would you like to give send a message to them? What would you like to tell them? Just something completely out of the question. What would you like to share with them?
Well, I am going to be a governor for all of the people of Wisconsin, and that I want to make sure that I am supporting strong Latino communities throughout the state, and that they have an important voice in my administration.
Very good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Can we take a group picture with us?
Sure.
All right?